I have to say, I was stunned listening to Giglio today and listening to a bunch of different callers, thinking that Rob Thomson handled Nick Castellanos the wrong way yesterday.
The camera, too.
DeCamera as well?
Yep. Also, he had no backbone.
So I don't think you understand what the job of the manager is for the Philadelphia Phillies. The job of the manager, and Rob Thomson's job, is to get the Phillies to play as best as they can. And he has a bunch of different things, right? He has to put people at different positions. He has to set the lineup card. But his biggest job is to get the very best out of every player he has, to manage the personalities of the team. The job of Rob Thomson is not to be some disciplinarian hard ass and make sure everybody knows that he's boss. There are some guys that handle coaching that way, but if you are managing a baseball team in 2025, coaching a professional basketball team in 2025, a pro football team, this hard ass thing where you're the boss and everybody's got to know it doesn't work. It's not the military. It's not boarding school. So his job is to get the best out of every player, including Nick Castellanos, and that is by pressing the right buttons with all of those players. So with Nick Castellanos, and I think he did the right thing. I get it. Okay. He embarrassed him on Tuesday night. As far as Nick Castellanos is concerned, he embarrassed him on Tuesday night by pulling him out of the game for defense. Then he embarrassed him on Wednesday by pulling him out of the game, breaking his streak, and publicly saying that it was a punishment for something that he said. Nick Castellanos knows the message from Rob Thomson at this point. So if all Nick Castellanos needs from an ego perspective is to know that it's not going to happen again last night, that's fine. Nick Castellanos is going to be a Philly. If they're not going to trade him at the deadline, they need him to produce. Rob Thomson needs a good Nick Castellanos. And if Rob Thomson thinks, who has, by the way, pressed a lot of right buttons this year, Rob Thomson, and gotten a lot of players to do things that they're not comfortable with. If Rob Thomson thinks that Nick Castellanos needs the assurance last night to know that it's not going to happen, then I trust Rob Thomson making that decision and making Nick Castellanos comfortable. And I think Nick Castellanos knows in the deepest part of his heart and the deepest part of his brain that in a big game at some point, it could happen again because it already happened once. But I think Rob Thomson, I don't think it's about backbone. It's not showing that he's tough. It's not showing that he's the boss. It is getting the best out of everyone. He laid down a line. He let the guy know it was unacceptable, and then he gave a little bit so Nick Castellanos isn't completely emasculated. The goal in this isn't to make Nick Castellanos feel small or feel emasculated. The goal is to get the best out of Nick Castellanos, and I think that's what Rob Thomson has done a good job of doing.
Yeah, and I just don't know. I think the thing that gets lost is what you said there at the end about you don't want to lose Nick Castellanos. I think he's a replacement level player. I think he's a below average defensive player, but ultimately they need Nick Castellanos if they're going to win the World Series. He's going to have to be on the team. I'd find it hard pressed to believe that they'll be to find a right field deadline, whatever. And I don't know why we can't just accept that what happened here was two grown men had a conversation, let the feelings out. I'm sure Nick Castellanos let some feelings out. Apparently, he apologized to Rob Thomson a couple times, which is good to hear. And I think last night was a good example of, hey, maybe it worked. I mean, Castellanos looked pretty spry in right field. He made the play at the end of the game. He smoked some baseballs. Now, he only saw 4 pitches and 4 at-bats.
Yeah, so but that's Castellanos.
He was out there. Yeah. He was out there trying to be super, super aggressive, which you want because you want aggressive Castellanos. And I think that there became an understanding between both of those guys of, hey, maybe don't spring it on me like that. And right. Thomson had to say, okay, well, I'll give here, you give there. That's what compromising is. You can't just be like, well, I need to do it again all the time. This is how it's going to... That's not how it works where you work. It's not where it works where we work, right. Where there has to be a little bit of give and take. And I don't think Rob Thomson's going to have any hesitation to do it again at some point down the road. I think it's going to be obviously dependent upon where Castellanos hit. Like if Castellanos was up the next inning on Monday night, he's not pulled out of the game in a 2-run lead. But he just hit. And it was very hard to believe that he's going to come back around with the 2-run lead. So I think it was a really... I was worried yesterday and it was real worry. I wasn't like doing a bit. I don't do bits with the Phillies. Dead serious at all times. Very scared at all times.
It's hard to get you to do a bit with the Phillies.
Yeah, I don't play along.
Yeah.
And I was legitimately worried about the Castellanos-Thompson situation possibly blowing up. But I think both now, looking back and seeing how yesterday went, I felt like it was two guys that came together, and I think it's going to end up ultimately being a really positive situation.
215-592-9494. What do you think of the situation, the resolve of Nick Castellanos and Rob Thomson? Do you think Rob Thomson did the right thing in bending and letting Nick Castellanos stay in right field last night? And by the way, I don't think that the precedent that Rob Thomson was trying to set the other night is that Nick Castellanos is always going to come out of the game for a defensive replacement in a close game. I don't think that's what Rob Thomson was trying to do. Rob Thomson was just trying to get a win the other night, thought it wasn't, and I imagine he didn't think it was going to be a big deal.
No.
And Castellanos reacted the way that he did. Again, Rob Thomson, his whole job here is to get the best out of these guys. And one other thing, because I hear this thrown around, and a caller said it yesterday too, about Castellanos being a replacement level player. Well, replacement level players are not valueless. There are plenty of players out there that are below replacement level players. So all a replacement level player is means that he's not hurting you from wins. He is not like additive over what an average player is.
Sure.
But most players, there's not a lot of players that are there's not a lot. Like a replacement level player is valuable because he is more valuable than a sub-replacement level player. So whoever they're putting out in right field for Nick Castellanos, if it's not Nick Castellanos, is not just in one inning as a defender, but as a player, he has value on the team. He has value on the team as a leader. He has value on the team, his bat. He is a good hitter. He's a bad fielder. There are plenty of bad fielders in baseball. But again, I don't think Rob Thomson's changed a lot this year. I think he's adjusted a lot. I think the two guys who have adjusted the most this year are Trey Turner and Rob Thomson.
I think you possibly put Schwarber in there.
Okay.
Just hitting behind Bryce and getting used to that situation.
I don't think his approach has changed very much, but I think moving in the lineup, I agree with you the most. But I've been impressed with Trey Turner's, his approach at the plate, and I've been really impressed with Rob Thompson's decisions to, move Schwarber around in the lineup, drop Bohm down when he wasn't hitting that well, and knowing the right time to move him back up, dropping Bryson Stott from the leadoff position. He's done that too. So I think Rob Thomson I think to a certain extent, you just have to trust that Rob Thomson knows that he pushed Nick Castellanos far enough to where Nick Castellanos knows what he wants out of him and knows what the line is, and not that he has to embarrass him and pull him every time he needs to.
Yeah, what I find interesting, it doesn't seem like there's a benefit of the doubt with Rob Thomson. And it feels like there's this, he's like this soft guy. I don't see a soft guy with Rob Thomson. I think he's mild-mannered. I think he's definitely laid back. But I think I think he's a baseball man. And baseball men are different than like football guys that are in your face, and it's just a different kind of sport. I think he's a good quality baseball guy. And, I think it's been a little bit too black and white with how this thing has to be handled. I think the truth is that there has to be a level of compromise. And by the way, Castellanos seems like a guy that could benefit from having a kick in the ass.
Once in a while.
Yeah.
Once in a while. Again, you don't want Nick Castellanos emasculated. You don't want him to be, have his head down and
publicly shamed.
Again, he was embarrassed and shamed 2 consecutive days. I just think that's enough. I think Rob Thomson made his point. I don't think he needs to continually make his point. And again, I don't think it makes Rob Thomson weak, the fact that he gave a little bit. When you're in the position that Thomson is,
and the position like you were in,
well, it's not dissimilar. It's true.
It is true.
It's true.
I'm laughing, but you were a manager of super talented, not as highly paid.
No, but highly paid.
Paid, and that have egos.
Yeah, ego, and you can't you have to understand that part of being a great baseball player for some of these guys is their ego, is their confidence. It's the same as here, and you don't want that ego to be gone, and you don't want that confidence to be gone, and you can't just. especially today, like today is different than 30 years ago. I think one of the issues with Chip Kelly is that Chip Kelly came to the NFL and acted like it was college.
Sure.
And acted like the players would just do whatever he said, whenever he said it, and you saw what happened there.
You got to give.
And we see that, by the way, we see the coach that is thriving now for the Eagles is the opposite of that, is a guy who I do think gives, last thing on this is think about Nick Sirianni last year and Jalen Carter. Two separate instances that he handled differently. One, Jalen Carter was late to a bunch of meetings. I think that's what we figured out it was. And he didn't start. Jalen Carter did not start for a game. Jalen Carter knew what happened. Yet later in the season, Jalen Carter and Nick Sirianni had a conflict on the sidelines, and there was nothing that happened out of that because Sirianni knows when to press the buttons, when to draw the line, and just like Thompson does.
Well, and it happened with AJ too. I mean, it happened on some of the biggest stages. I mean, AJ had a thing in the Super Bowl, and and AJ's a high wire act where you got to be able to manage that. And I think that's been that's why I was so impressed with Sirianni last year. I thought he had an unbelievable year. And final thing before we wrap this part of the conversation up.
Yep.
I just think you have to give Castellanos a chance to redeem himself. Like last night, after everything that happened, you did it a couple nights ago. You have to. I think you run the risk of possibly losing the player, and I think that you give him. It's been this year. I don't think he runs pretty hard out of the box. Doesn't move that quickly.
Yeah,
but there has been better moments for him in right field than has happened this year, and maybe this is kind of a little bit of a wake up call from that standpoint.